Hi everyone, this is DockerCon 2022 and this is a community live panel I have with me for amazing guests. So let's start with the introduction, and I'd like to start from Sebastian.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Sebastian. As you said, I work at Docker, and I came at Docker through the open source projects. So in 2014, Docker was becoming a big hype and all new. And for my previous job, it was actually a pretty cool technology that we could use. And I didn't know anything about it. So I started to look at the GitHub repository and tried to follow what it did and how it works. And along the way, I started learning. So that's basically the topic as well of today.
Perfect. Thank you, Sebastian. Okay, let's keep going. And then the next guest is one of the best connections that I found on Twitter. I'm talking about Pratim.
Thank you so much, Francesco. And I'm so glad to be here. I'm really excited. This is also my first time at DockerCon. And a quick introduction about myself. As you were mentioning, I am a developer advocate at nHost. We at nHost are a backend as a service platform. And again, open source. We are open source. And other than that, you'll rather find me talking at some events or working out at the gym. And if not that, you'll find me on Twitter, hosting some Twitter spaces.
Nice. And now, of course, last but not least, jaoude just appears out of nowhere.
I'm just super keen to be here and geek out with everybody. Super fun. By the way, it only took 5 minutes for you to mention Web3, but I'm glad open source got mentioned many more times. So that's good. Sorry, Pratim, it's like 3-1, I think, to me.
So let's start. And let's start from the learning in private. And this is, I think it's an important step because, for example, for me, I've learned Docker in private because I had no social media presence. I was not friends with jaoude and Pratim, so I was very sad in the past. And so I'd like to know from all of you or some of you, what does it mean for you to learn in private?
I don't know if it's bad to learn in private. I mean, everyone wants to learn at their own pace, and I think that's perfectly fine. The thing I personally like about learning in public is the ability to share with others and to learn from others. In my opinion, if it's possible to share it publicly, and public is, of course, a bit of a gray area. What is public?
Nice. I would like to ask Pratim, what's your experience?
I think I do agree with Sebastian to a very high extent that learning in public has more, you can say, pros. But when I started my complete tech journey, I think there was a point where I feel right now that when you're learning in public, there is some amount of distractions that come in picture. There are some, like if you're posting something, you might get distracted for like sharing other things. You might scroll. Whereas if it's just you're not sharing anything, and if it's just your learning path, it might help someone who is not yet ready to be on the public journey but wants to pick up a skill. I'd rather say if it's a good combination of private and public learning, that might help you to hone the skills as well as then build yourself a public profile.
Nice. Now I would like to ask this to Eddie.
When you asked this question, I was really thinking about this because I like to think I do everything in public. And I was thinking about it, and there are some things I don't do in public, not because I don't want to, I think because it's not really possible. Part of the reason has been mentioned already. You know, if you put out a tweet, you're going to get notifications and it can be a bit distracting. But also I was thinking about if I bought a Udemy course, then I can't share that on a live stream. I can't share that anywhere else. It's not fair for the author of the course. So I would watch that, and I might watch, say, an hour a day, for example, and I would learn in private. But then I would take that to learning in public by creating a side project with that, putting it into practice, and then sharing that open source on GitHub, maybe putting a tweet out or something that was my takeaway from building my project. I think everything always starts a bit with a bit in private, and then it moves to being in public.
Let's discuss instead about the learning in public. I became a huge fan of this. I think we can literally talk for 3 hours just if we let Eddie jaoude talk. So maybe we can start from him.
I really think it is having that project. Like if you're learning something, you need to put it into practice. I mean, if you just read it, or watch it, it's not enough. I think people call it tutorial hell. You need to put it into practice, and then share those on Twitter. And that's again how you grow your Twitter. I think someone also asked the question: how do they become? How do you advocate for yourself, communicate your value in the org? and have an influence as a junior developer. I think junior, senior, I don't care about those sorts of titles. It's people adding value to a project, to a community, to a team. That's the important thing.
Okay, let's move to Sebastian.
So what I wanted to reply is also about titles and whatsoever, that they shouldn't be important in learning in public. I do think it's good because learning in public may not be for everyone. It may be scary as to you're exposing yourself, you're out there in the open, making mistakes, asking silly questions. There's no shame in not knowing things.
Nice. Yes, I agree with what you say that maybe learning in public, you need to be, let's say, a bit shameless. Pratim, what are your thoughts about learning in public?
One thing about learning in public is it's not a necessity, but it's a great thing to have. One thing I would like, just because I have an elder brother who's doing amazingly well, even he's a senior software engineer, and he has just chosen, or I think he's an introvert, or he doesn't enjoy learning in public. But I think whenever he gets a chance or anyone reaches out to him, he's always there to help. So the whole motive of learning in public, along with creating your own public profile, is to make sure that you're helping the community. So as long as helping the community is happening, it's cool. So I think this is a space open for everyone. Come in as you want and as comfortable you are in. Do not do it because there's a FOMO around it, but it's something that really has good benefits, and it's good to have a social proof, a social backing.
Great, Fatim. And we can move to another communities and learning in public and also private. So how, a community can, leverage, maybe bring the learning in public to a whole new level? Would you like to start, Eddie?
It does bring it to a different level. You're absolutely right, because there is tech Twitter and those sorts of things. But again, it's a bit noisy. Like you said, you've got to have a thick skin. And when you take it to a community, it becomes a bit more personal. You get to chat to a smaller group of people, but more often. And, you chat to them on your good days and your bad days, and they can help. They really can. And so I think it's a bit more personal, especially when some of those communities are more likely to be in, say, Discord, where it's more real-time-ish, let's say. So I think it definitely takes it to another level.
Yes, Yves, what's your experience with connected with the learning in public or private?
I not always really know what I think about communities. I mean, one of the things that is really great is it can help just to stay motivated, because if you just share with no community, if you just have some stuff, it can be really difficult at some point to continue to keep motivated, and just to have people that are waiting for something from you is really great. But it doesn't mean that you need to be part of the community to just learn in public. Sometimes you just share some stuff and you don't build it. And it's not the goal, it's just to learn and to share what you learn.
Nice. And now another topic that I think it's an important for me personally, which is about content creation. So who would like to start? Otherwise, I'll just talk for 30 minutes straight.
I think we name it content creation because it will be learned by the public. That is what we are creating for the public. Else it would just be named as a piece of code or a document or an internal documentation. We call it content creation so that it is something that other people can understand pretty well. And I think they are very closely connected because you create content for the public, you create content for your community. And the whole point of making it content, what you mean is you make it readable, you make it more accessible. That's you just don't put a code out there and post it on your blog. You explain each and every variable out of the code. You explain how the code has come into picture. So I think that's the major step that we are taking currently with the whole build in public chain, I guess, where content creation wasn't a very big deal, but today it's one of the major things that is bringing in change in the complete tech ecosystem, I feel.
I'll say that maybe for me personally, it's not about the single piece of content that you can create, but it's more about the mindset of the content creator that you can really develop. Like you read something and you create content, you read something and you create content. So Eddie, what are your thoughts about being a content creator? Is that useful or not?
It's definitely very, very useful. It really is. It helps kind of grow your network, helps you communicate better. I mean, if you look at my YouTube videos from 3 years ago, actually even from 6 months ago, I hate them because they get better and better every time. So, I think I shared a video from 6 months ago and I was like, I said to the person, here's this video, just, look at the content, don't look at the camera angle, the lighting, because you improve it every time, just a little bit. But when you look back over a long time, so if you're writing blogs or tweets, they do get better. over time, your communication and your process, everything gets better. But to be honest, I don't create content. I document my journey. That's why I don't find it hard to use air quotes, create content, because I don't create content. I'm just documenting as I go along. So some of the videos I've created, how to upload with Next.js to S3 and authentication with GitHub OAuth with Next.js. I was learning those for one of my side projects. So I just created a video on what I had already just learned that day. And same with my tweets. We were having some, with the git add don't use this, for example, don't teach people should use this. We had so many PRs coming in with so many other files that weren't meant to be there. So for me, that's why I only put out about 40-50% of my content, because I have too much content to go out.
Nice. So let's step into the main topic and main discussion, which is about the learning in private versus learning in public. So who would like to start? Sebastian.
So yeah, my opinion, as I said earlier, I prefer keeping things as public as possible, because I learned so much myself from things in public that I like to give that back and continue learning. And there's so many interactions I have with people from the community, both on GitHub and Slack and Twitter messages at times. And I learn every day. As Eddie mentioned, as to look back at comments from yourself from 6 months ago or a year ago, it's like you don't realize how much you learned over time, because it just grows automatically. So I'm clearly 100% in the public camp, I guess. Of course, there are situations where where you would need to learn things in private, and indeed following a video course or whatsoever, that's something you do in your own time and in your own private space. But generally, I'm just 100% in the public camp.
Yeah. I think I'll play the devil's advocate of learning in private, because if I would not have started learning in private, I would not have started the learning in pub. So I can say that maybe it's better to learning in private than not learning at all. So this is just.
I think that's why it's important to have a good community around you.
Eddie, which are your thoughts about this topic? Let's fight.
I want to keep mine really brief, but because Sebastian made me, and if there's time, I can come back to it. It's other stuff. But Sebastian made me think of something when we were talking about looking back 6 months and seeing how much you've improved. One of the interview questions I do when hiring for my clients is I look at people's GitHub profiles, and I don't look at what people think I look for. So this is what Sebastian made me think of, is I look at someone's work today, and I don't care how good, bad, whatever it is. I look back at their work 6 months ago, and I just want to see that it's improved. And that's what I'm looking for. So Sebastian reminded me about that comment. And I think, one of the questions in the chat was, do I need to contribute to the biggest repo on GitHub? I see people going, I want to contribute to Kubernetes or Docker or, React. No, you can contribute to any project, because you're going to learn so much, the workflow, the communication, and all that stuff.
Eve, which are what would you prefer? Private thoughts?
I think I'm definitely on public side. I mean, I start with that. I mean, my parents in Grandpa are teachers. So all from the beginning, from just learning and sharing what you learn. And that's how I started. I mean, it was like more than 20 years ago. So without Twitter, without YouTube, etc. And it was just by reading source code from the others, trying to understand what are the missing pieces, and just start by writing the missing documentation and just share with the same people. I mean, it's just the default way to learn.
Nice, even also both of my parents are teachers. So one of the reasons why I'm here and also became a content creator is exactly this, because I was a teacher before stepping into tech, and now basically all this social media stuff, Twitter, crazy stuff, it's also because it allows me to teach stuff. Yeah, Pratim, let's close this fight.
I think we have a lot of advocates for public. I think I'd like to play the devil's advocate. So one book that I have read and I really go by is Deep Work by Cal Newport. And that book talks a lot about focused work. And I feel there are times when I want to do focused work. That's when I move towards private learning. That's when I become a little bit selfish, and I just care about learning and making sure the concepts that I'm getting are completely right. And I'm at a position when I'm not ready to share it in public, or I want to just understand that topic really, really well. Obviously, later then I go and share it in public, because all of us currently here are believers in build in public. But yeah, I do take my time when I want to just be there and learn something very well, and share only when I feel I'm good at it, or I'm at a level where I'm comfortable sharing it with. So yeah, I have taken a lot of breaks where I prefer learning in private.
I agree, because for example, I can say that maybe if you learn in private, you are more focused. I still remember like years ago, even before joining Twitter, I was super focused on the learning stuff, because of course staying on social media, it takes a lot of time, even if you take it seriously, in quotes. And so it depends, because if you are just on social media but you're not sharing stuff, just wasting, you can also waste your time. So let's talk also about maybe this part. So would you like to share one of your experience? It can be either learning in private or public that maybe, I don't know, changed something. Go, Pratim.
I have two actually, and both of them were when I had started working as a developer advocate, or officially took up the position of developer advocate. I started writing some blogs and some good threads around what I had learned and how I keep myself updated as a developer advocate. And to my surprise, a lot of senior developer advocates who've been in the industry for around 10 to 12 years found that tweet, that blog very helpful, and they started retweeting that. And that moment was so precious for me, because you always look up to people from your industry and you want to be like them. You like their way of going ahead, and that was the moment which gave me confidence in my skills, and I realized what I'm doing is I'm on the right path basically, and all of this is helping me to be a better person in my domain.
Yves, do you have something to share, an experience that you can remember?
Yeah, I think that's some, but one of them I still have in mind is just at the beginning where I really started to just learn programming. It was just within news group and stuff like that. And at that time where playing with like Hewlett-Packard calculators, the HP 48, 49, etc. And at that time, there was it was really difficult to have documentation, to have help on that. And I continued to work on that just because the others share content with me. And it wasn't really with me. It was just people just sharing what they did. That's all.
Yes, and maybe I would like to take just 10 seconds to say that what developers do, it's incredible. Things like GitHub, it's really extraordinary. Like people sharing public stuff, publicly about their experiences. If you stop and think for 10 seconds, it's literally mind-blowing that people like literally put their code every day, their work. Eddie, what do you think about this and also your experience?
Yeah, I think it's great that we have GitHub as a platform and all these projects are on there and people are collaborating. And one thing I really want to highlight is that open source communities in tech is not just about coders. Actually, coding is only a very small part of it. You know, if we raise an issue, there's no code involved. We're going to be talking about the idea we have. Let's start right at the beginning. We raise a discussion usually to have the different threads so people can bounce ideas. Then we go from that and we take a bit more of a final idea into an issue. And then someone may make some changes, which I say changes because it's not necessarily code. There's automated testing. There's configuration for, your Kubernetes cluster or for your Docker or there's translations for your documentation. There's just so many things. The code's only a small part of that. And then from there, you get a pull request and then people, review it and you're collaborating with people. So it's kind of like collaborate in discussions, collaborate in the issue, collaborate in the pull request. Code only appears once in there, or it might not even appear once, but changes only appear once. And then collaboration appears 3 times. So I think it's really important that people realize that they can add a lot of value by getting involved in the conversation and asking questions, as Sebastian mentioned, I think is really good. And creating content, learning in public has opened all the doors that have opened for me have been because of that. And my only regret in my career is that I didn't start sooner.
Yes, it's super fast. I think it doesn't pass one day that I say, I should have started my YouTube channel earlier. I should have started my Twitter account earlier. But I also think of this, that if you are thinking this, it means that you are on the right path. Amazing. So let's take some questions from the audience. And I think that we have one from Matthew, which is asking how to get started. Who would like to go?
So I think there's some pretty good trainings online as well for Docker and containerization. The important giveaway, I would say, is don't stop thinking yourself. Don't let your mind go crazy with all the fun and super complex examples you may find. Sometimes simple is the easy solution or is the best solution. And too often I see people get too far into the weeds in making super complex constructs for only something that could be done very simply. So never stop thinking yourself. Look at examples, look at what other people say, look up some trainings because there are some pretty good ones.
I like this, and I think that really containerization and orchestration, they are really the top level of what Sebastian said, because if you are just new into tech and you start checking, I don't know, Kubernetes configuration, I think you stop coding. You just say, okay, so this is not for me, bye, I'm done. I think this is what everybody will think. Instead, they are powerful tools, but they need to be, you don't need to know everything. It's like building. You don't need to know everything about how to build a house. Just the parts that you need are enough. So this is what I think. Maybe start with any backend technology. Start learning about how the internet works. I think this is like a prerequisite, like understanding how the internet works even before starting coding. And then start with a very basic example. And I don't know, some connection, some DBI, someone else. How can we get started?
Just get started. Like literally just get started. I think it's the hardest thing is getting started. We put it off, where's the best resources? I'm not going to start until I find the best resource. Well, we're not going to find the best resource until you try it, because what's the best resource for me might not be the best resource for you. Same with contributing to open source projects. I see so many people want to get involved in contributing to open source projects, but they say, well, I'm going to wait for the right project. Well, you're not going to find the right project until you have a look at some and try and find it. So I would say definitely get started. And again, I think as Sebastian mentioned, don't try and do something really hard and complicated. Start off simple, because as Francesco mentioned, if you look at something really hard and complicated, it's going to put you off.
Yeah, and I like to make a very super fast analogy with cooking. Like, okay, it's good to check some tutorials, but you need to get literally your hands dirty. Otherwise, you'll just, I don't know, you go with something which is called tutorial hell. You basically just watch tutorials as if it were like, I don't know, Netflix series. And some Netflix series are also bad, but I don't know. Maybe it's better to get your hands dirty, understanding stuff, making mistakes. Making mistakes is like the golden rule, I think, to learn.
Especially
as he had this,
fail and try again. And
yeah, I think
we have more tools than ever nowadays, including containers, but also different tools that allow you to fail and try again without messing up your whole machine. And
I genuinely think that by sharing all my mistakes, this is one of the reasons why I got so much traction on social media. I never run out of ideas. I've always some new mistake to share every single day. So this is a great approach. All these speakers, thank you so much for coming here. So would like to wrap this very interesting panel. To be honest, I've also learned a lot. I don't know who would like to start for first. Yves, would you like to say some final thoughts about this topic?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's quite difficult to just wrap this. Sometimes it's just difficult because you can be wrong. But it's okay. You will be wrong. I mean, we all be wrong at some point. And you don't have to think that much about that. Just learn, share, and the result will be, I mean, all time at some point, someone will just share something with you. And it's good. And you just start with that. And don't try to be too hard. Just share what you think and it's fine.
Yes, I think the only way to don't make mistakes is just sitting on a couch, just eating chips. You're never wrong in that case. Pratim, which are your final thoughts?
I think, as Eddie was mentioning, just get started. I think that's what everyone needs to do. And it is only the first step that will happen if you, after you stop judging yourself and after you stop making it so important that what other people are thinking about you. I think that's the first step. And to be honest, if say being on the other side, it feels that tech is a very cutthroat place to be in. Like if you don't perform, you won't be there. But today's communities are very loving, very inclusive. They have space for everyone. So we are at the right point. And trust me, the amount of hate that comes in is literally 0.1% of the love that you get in. So do not stop. And this will only help you get better day by day.
Thank you so much, Pratim. This has been really great. Eddie?
I would recommend everyone to learn in public as much as they can, right? And for this month, it might be X amount, and for next month, it might be Y amount, right? We all have responsibilities. Some people have elderly parents, kids, job, whatever it is. And so my point is, don't feel that you have to work to someone else's frequency or cadence on learning in public. Whatever works for you. So if it is twice a week, then it's twice a week. And if you can keep that consistent, great.
Yes, I think that is really, really on point, because I think that once we start sharing on social media, learning in public, basically you are never done, because you can always engage, you can always create another article. I've been there and I'm still there. So you don't know where to stop, but sometimes you have to stop, take a walk, take a break. So this is very important. Sebastian, let's wrap this event.
I think most has been said already. The only thing I can add is sometimes you learn by teaching. And that is so many times I had to answer a question from someone. And by writing down the question, I had to learn myself. And that's the moment things clicked. And by writing it down, you learn it yourself. And at the same time, you're sharing. So that's the thing I can add. And otherwise, I think most things have been said already. So I would only be repeating.
Thank you so much to all the speakers, Yves, Sebastian, Pratim, Eddie. To be honest, I also love that we have not just been like on 100% of the learning in public, because you still learn something. Also, if you learn just all by yourself, it's a way. For example, it has been my way to start. And I really like to what Eddie said, and also other speakers, like that you should not stop. So you just do an amount of stuff, and then maybe the next month you try to increase or decrease if it has been a tough month. The most important thing is to never stop. So thanks everyone. I'm really looking forward for the next DockerCon in person, to be honest. Yes, so thank you so much.